I've decided to leave Beverly Hills.
We have some boundaries, I think, that we kind of stay within.
So sick of it.
Garcelle!
I can't be friends with people like that. I don't trust them.
Okay, let's get into what's happening with Garcelle Beauvais and the Beverly Hills housewives since her exit.
Right. There are reports indicating a real distance now, a significant disconnect between her and several others.
And it seems to stem from her feeling let down, particularly around the reunion and afterwards, feeling unsupported by the women she worked closely with. We're hearing she's had very little contact with the cast since leaving.
That aligns with the information.
Including Kyle Richards saying her texts are going unanswered.
An insider suggests Garcelle feels she simply deserved a lot better from them.
Better treatment, more support perhaps.
Exactly. And that feeling seems central to her decision to leave the show. It wasn't just a job.
No, it sounds like the lack of genuine friendship was a major factor. Really hit hard.
It appears so. There are even suggestions that some friendships she thought were solid maybe weren't.
Including Sutton. That relationship seemed quite strong on screen.
Well, the source claims that even the connection with Sutton wasn't perceived by Garcelle as entirely real in the end.
Despite Sutton posting that photo of them together after Garcelle announced her departure, it looks supportive.
Public gestures can differ from private feelings. The word is their bond is not the same as it once was.
So Garcelle felt the investment wasn't mutual, that she put more into it.
That seems to be the feeling described, that her efforts weren't fully reciprocated.
And the reunion taping itself
Sounds
like a catalyst.
a definite turning point. Reports say she actually stormed off the set.
Really? Walked off?
Yes, used strong language, and then skipped the traditional end of reunion activities.
No toast, no group photo.
None of it, which was apparently a big wake-up call for her about this situation.
It signals a complete break from the usual process.
It does. And then you have the watch what happens live moment.
With Erica Jane and Bazoma St. John. The reaction, or lack thereof, to Garcelle leaving,
Precisely. That long pause when asked about it,
followed by Erica's comment, the won't he do it remark.
which some interpreted as quite dismissive, almost suggesting her departure was orchestrated somehow.
It certainly seemed to highlight the existing tension, didn't it?
It absolutely fueled the perception of a rift between Garcelle and at least some of the others.
It does make you think about the nature of these relationships. One insider put it bluntly.
What was that?
They said, essentially, reality TV is not the place to make good friends, that's for sure.
That's a perspective you hear often. The pressures are immense.
Friendships versus storylines versus personal lives. It all gets blurred.
It creates a very specific, often difficult dynamic. Authenticity can be hard to maintain.
And this is all unfolding as the season 14 reunion concludes. We're seeing the fallout.
Exactly. And hey, if you want to stay on top of all the latest in the world of reality TV, make sure you subscribe.
Yeah, definitely subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss a single update from us.
Please do.
Scary Island was unprecedented and unsettling. All trips are unsettling because you are fitting 25 pounds of emotional and dramatic shit and arguments in a 5-pound bag.
Okay, let's unpack this Scary Island mystique. It really feels like this infamous Real Housewives of New York trip, the one to St. John. It's just taken on a life of its own.
Totally. And Bethenny Frankel recently posted an Instagram video hinting at some seriously intense moments that never even made it to air.
We're talking about a situation where she and other cast members were, well, by all accounts, pretty upset with Kelly Benjamin. Screaming was the word used.
And what's fascinating is how the other women apparently reacted. Sonja Morgan felt so concerned for Kelly that she actually asked everyone to stop.
Wow.
And Kelly herself later mentioned yelling a producer's name basically to halt filming.
Bethenny described the trip as unprecedented and unsettling.
Yeah.
And she really emphasized that most wasn't aired. And here's where it gets really interesting. She suggested the unaired stuff would be a liability for the network. It certainly raises questions about the network's responsibility, especially in these intense filming environments.
Definitely. And she apparently expressed surprise that filming just went back to normal afterward. While she understandably didn't want to, quote, invade someone's privacy.
Right, she was clear on that.
She did confirm it was very scary and jarring for everyone. So it shook us all. Makes you wonder what the threshold is, for what's deemed too risky to actually put on TV.
Exactly.
And Bethenny's comment about cast trips being not relaxing.
Oh, yeah.
That rings true, especially when you contrast it with Ramona Singer's view that they were actually on a vacation.
Sort of opposite perspective. It really underscores the tension between what we see as glamorous getaways and what the cast experiences as work often in these high-pressure cookers.
For sure. And it wasn't just Scary Island, remember?
Right. She mentioned Colombia, too.
Yeah, briefly touched on the Colombia trip, that infamous boat ride from hell. Called that another liability, but linked more to safety concerns, it sounded like.
It seems these trips, the ones often promoted as these luxurious, amazing getaways, can actually be pretty fraught behind the scenes.
And that brings up another point about the ripple effects. Bethenny mentioned St. John, the island itself.
Yeah?
Wasn't happy to be associated with the Scary Island name. And even brands like Kodak were reportedly furious about how they were sort of dragged into it.
That's wild.
For you listening, what kind of unaired events do you think could actually be such a big liability for a network? It definitely sparks some intriguing questions about what goes on behind the cameras.
For sure. Okay, next update we have about Beverly Hills. It's interesting seeing Denise Richards back on Bravo, right? With her family show. Denise Richards and her Wild Things. It sounds like she's kind of embracing this new chapter. She mentioned doing press for the show in New York with her older daughters.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a first for them. You could really sense her pride in how they handled it all.
That's nice. And what's fascinating is her perspective on her past relationships, especially with Charlie Sheen and his ex, Brooke Mueller.
Right.
Her relationship with Brooke seems genuinely, peaceful and harmonious. She seems very focused on creating a positive environment for her daughter's brother's mother.
Which speaks to a real maturity, I think.
It does. A very commendable approach there. But then when it comes to her dynamic with Charlie Sheen, she specifically doesn't call it co-parenting, describes it as just parenting.
Highlighting their different approaches, basically. And the fact they're not really on the same page and haven't been for a while.
Exactly. The fact Charlie actually appears on her new show to support their daughters.
Right, even though their personal relationship is still up and down.
It suggests, well, at least a shared commitment to their kids.
Absolutely. And her daughters are clearly the priority. She mentioned having open talks with them about past issues with Charlie.
But being careful not to, badmouth him.
Exactly. Wanting them to form their own relationship with their dad, which seems like a really thoughtful approach, protecting their well-being.
Yeah. And her decision to join OnlyFans is also pretty noteworthy.
It is. It apparently stemmed from her initial surprise at her daughter joining.
Right.
And then seeing the backlash Sammy got. So it seems she embraced her whole Wild Things persona, partly to support her daughter, partly maybe to reclaim her own narrative.
Yeah, it was a bold move. Sparked a lot of conversation.
It sure did. And the idea for her family reality show actually came from Alex Baskin after her time on Real Housewives.
Oh, interesting. So it was kind of a natural progression?
Seems like it. And even though she's not on RHOBH anymore, she apparently keeps close ties with Camille, Crystal Kung Minkoff, and Kathy Hilton.
Okay.
And she's even reconnected with Erica Jane. Shows that some of those housewives' bonds can last, I guess.
Some do, some don't. What's also interesting is her reaction, or lack thereof, to the whole upside-down jacket thing.
Oh, yeah. She basically said she did not care what it looked like.
Right. Just wanted out of that dinner.
And regarding Dorit, she noted Dorit's tendency to, comment on everything.
Yeah.
And confirmed they haven't spoken recently.
Some friendships fade when the cameras stop rolling. Seems pretty common.
True. So, for anyone wanting to catch Denise Richards and her Wild Things, it airs on Tuesdays. And for you, the listener, how do you navigate complex co-parenting relationships, especially when they might be in the public eye? Definitely a multifaceted challenge.
For sure. Okay, next update we have about the Hamptons.
Paige always gives a pretty candid take, doesn't she?
Yeah. She shared her approach to handling breakups, apparently getting immediately out there after her split with Craig Conover.
Right. And her advice for single people. Go out. Very straightforward.
Very pragmatic approach to moving on. But what's really fascinating is her glimpse into the production side of Summer House.
Oh, the basement.
Exactly. The revelation about a whole basement where the production team operates monitors, cameras, producers, the whole 9 yards.
And the cast is never allowed in.
Right. Paige herself even said she wished the show would break the fourth wall so much more.
Which suggests, maybe, a desire for more transparency about the whole process, the artifice involved. You hear that sometimes.
Yeah. And to help her process watching herself, she apparently has her mom watch new episodes first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to prepare her for anything she should be aware of. She admits it's tough hearing her own voice, seeing things permanently captured on TV.
I can imagine. That speaks to the vulnerability of having your life documented like that.
Definitely. Her evolving attitude towards public opinion is also interesting, going from reading everything
to now being too busy to even read things, which is probably a very healthy coping mechanism.
And gaining more confidence with age seems to play a part too.
Makes sense. So a reminder, Summer House Season 9 will be airing on Wednesdays.
Okay, next update we have about Vanderpump Rules. Some pretty interesting claims from former producer Patrick McDonald about Lisa Vanderpump.
Yes, this story. Patrick alleges Lisa called him to, quote, manipulate him and extract information.
This was after he spoke out publicly about alleged mistreatment on the show, right?
Yeah. He previously hinted his departure might be linked to starting his OnlyFans account. And he's worked on various housewife shows, too, so he's been around.
Right. What stands out in his account is his feeling about the season 10 reunion. He felt like he was walking Rachel Leviss into a firing squad.
Because of the intense backlash over the Tom Sandoval affair.
Exactly. He described some of the things said to her subhuman, the cheese grater comment, as unacceptable and disgusting, really highlights the emotional intensity of those reunions.
It absolutely underscores the potential emotional toll, not just on the cast in the spotlight, but maybe on the production team, witnessing these really raw, difficult moments, too.
Good point. So Patrick believes Lisa's call, while presented as friendly,
under the guise of friendship was his phrase.
Right. He thinks it was actually intended to get him to name specific names involved in the alleged mistreatment and maybe discourage him from talking more. He even suspected she might be acting for the production company or the network.
That's a pretty serious allegation, leveraging a prior professional relationship to gather intel.
It is. But he stated he didn't take the bait when she apparently pushed for specific names.
Okay. All right, let's dive into the always unpredictable world of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. There is certainly a lot going on there.
Okay, Brit and the fallout from Kenya sharing those pictures.
Right. Brit was clearly upset, feeling humiliated, and worried about her insurance license because of the past stuff resurfacing.
Yeah.
Real-world consequences.
Yeah, serious stuff. And it was interesting seeing the other ladies react. Kelly seemed like a strong support for Brit.
Bringing food, champagne, even an IV specialist.
Yeah, and there was definitely a feeling among some of them that Kenya's actions weren't impulsive, but maybe premeditated.
Then we have Porsha, kind of entangled in the drama around Charles and Angela.
Porsha admitted to playing with Angela about the comments, but then claimed to have a degree in investigation.
Okay. And on a more personal level, she had that really emotional moment talking about her divorce from Simon.
Yeah, the lack of communication about their daughter, Pilar, the constant cease and desist letters.
It really seems like many of the Atlanta housewives are juggling significant personal challenges this season, alongside the usual group dynamics.
True. Like Drew, still having difficulties co-parenting with Ralph, describing it as bickering, feeling like he intentionally tries to trigger her.
Rough. And then there was that slightly awkward moment with Shamea's music background.
Oh, yeah. She's working with the producer, RL, and it came out she was in a girl group with Carrie Hilson way back when.
And Porsha apparently claimed not to recognize Shamea's singing.
Which both Angela and Drew clocked as being shady. Seems like some underlying tension there, maybe.
Could be. Then the peace brunch Kelly tried to organize for Brit kind of went south.
Yeah, intended as support, but quickly devolved into that confrontation between Brit and Angela about the license issue.
Right. Brit initially said she lost it, then corrected to say it's under investigation. That fueled the fire.
And the exchange got pretty heated. References to past incidents, pistols and whips came up again, and accusations about not taking responsibility.
Yikes. And Kelly herself later shared some very candid thoughts in an interview about the whole RHOA dynamic.
She really didn't hold back, did she?
No. A bit shady towards Drew, calling her a better singer than Chef, implying she adds seasoning to stories.
Okay.
And she questioned the authenticity of Brit and Porsha's friendship, called it as fake as the pastry, and expressed concern about Porsha's relationship with Shamea, too.
Yeah. And even hinted at a falling out with Brit herself, using that same fake as the pastry line, citing loyalty issues.
Okay, so Kelly's stirring the pot a bit post-filming. She also teased drama between Phaedra and Angela.
Right. And predicted Porsha and Drew will have the most to answer for at the reunion, especially Porsha and her supposed receipts. For those wanting to follow along live, remember there's a live viewing thread for new RHOA episodes. And for you listening, which of these Atlanta storylines are you most invested in right now and why? There's definitely no shortage of drama to keep track of.
Whew.